I'm Stephen Foskett, and this is Cloud Field Day in San Jose, California. We're here with Cisco Systems and a panel of bloggers, podcasters, writers, and speakers. We invited them here to interact and discuss during the presentation and also to represent the wider IT audience. If you'd like to see more videos like this, you can look at youtube.com/techfieldday, or you can go to techfieldday.com and learn how to become a presenter or a delegate yourself.
So let's dive straight in. I'm running this CloudCenter. Actually, this is our SaaS platform. In our transition to Cisco right now, we have temporarily discontinued the SaaS offering. The SaaS offering will be brought back to life sometime next year once we have integrated into Cisco's billing and metering systems. So on this SaaS, I have this Tenant Demo. It's actually being used by multiple sales engineers at Cisco. So there's all sorts of data in here. But this is set up to manage all these different cloud environments. So there's an internal VMware cloud, Google, Azure East, Amazon East and West. We are currently migrating our OpenStack from our previous data center to a Cisco data center. And then looks like some SE is trying to set up a Azure region here. So those are all the clouds that are under management right now. On those clouds, this dashboard is showing the latest sort of VM usage, active VMs by different cloud type, but more importantly, because we launched the application workload, we are also able to slice and dice that data by application. So here are my X instances of WordPress, here are my Y instances of SharePoint. That data is available to us as well. This look and feel is changing in 2 weeks. This version is 4.5.5. 4.6 is coming out by at the end of September right now. And it's going to have much richer dashboards and graphics and so forth and so on. So let's dive straight into the meat of the product, which is application profiles. So in these application profiles, in the beginning, this catalog would be empty. So the user will be actually modeling applications. You can model applications from scratch, or you can also import our profiles. They're just JSONs at the end of the day. You can import, export them from one system to another. We have tried this out several times. It's completely possible where you might have an AWS CloudFormation template. CloudFormation is a JSON, and you could write a transformation script that turns that JSON into our JSON. Once it becomes a CliQr JSON, then it can potentially go on to other clouds like Azure as well. Of course, there's a fidelity there. It's not 100% fidelity between their JSON and our JSON. One of the things we are exploring in the future, and maybe offline, I'd love to get your feedback as well, is should we move in the direction of Tosca? We think we should move towards open standards, and Tosca is definitely something that we are considering down the line. So let me go into model. There are some models that we give out of the box. Believe it or not, we have customers running a desktop client. They have a thick client, high performance computing application with a GUI. We just launched the VM with the thick client, and end users directly see the thick client. There's batch computing, Hadoop. There are some pre-packaged templates for stuff like Java web apps and so forth and so on. But the most generic starting point is this N-tier topology designer, where you basically create that application model or blueprint. In the beginning, you can always give the application some basic metadata information. You can give it a name, you can give it a version, you can also provide revision numbers, categorize it, so forth and so on. But all the fun actually happens on this pane, so let me come here. So let me show you how a possible 3-tier application topology can be constructed. Let's say my application has Nginx as a load balancer. As you can see, there are several web servers available here, Apache, Geronimo. When we ship the product, some of these building blocks we provide out of the box. These tend to be open source, free middleware components. But our customers extend this library on their own. So the media and entertainment company that I talked about added their own WebLogic cluster. A healthcare company added their own WebSphere cluster, but this library is extensible. Also, in this library, through very granular role-based access control, you can limit access to who can do what. Let's say you do want your developers to go out to Amazon or Azure, but you don't want them to use Amazon or Azure specific services. You can deny them permission to those here, and they can only use IT sanctified services. So let me drag and drop a Tomcat here. Let's also drag and drop a database. As you can see, there are other variety of elements here, NoSQL databases. You can also simply drag and drop an operating system image, a base image, and on that base image, just run any custom script. Our Docker story is right now simple, but working with the Mantle and Shift team, this is going to be a lot more comprehensive. So you can make Docker containers as part of your topology as well. But right now, that container would still come up on a VM on the target cloud, or you can have multiple containers on the same VM. In the future, we'll be treating Kubernetes, Mesos, Docker data center, just like we treat vCenter, where vCenter is a VM-based cloud. Kubernetes for us would be a container-based cloud. So a container part of the topology could be sent directly to Kubernetes for scheduling and orchestration.
Would you need another orchestrator for those platforms?
So we would need to, yeah. So for southbound, we would basically add a Kubernetes provider as well. Yeah.
Okay, but it would need a separate orchestrator. So you were saying for each of the other platforms, so vCenter, AWS, I need an orchestrator VM.
It would need separate orchestration code. From a bundling perspective, it probably doesn't have to be a separate orchestrator.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They can be here, by the way, PaaS services as well. So here's Amazon's ELB. So it doesn't have to be a pure VM-based component. These are all VM-based components. There are some neat things you can do here. You can also create what we call a deployment service. So you might have created one application profile, you deploy that application, but you in turn want to provide that recursively to other application profiles as a service. You can make these profiles recursive as well. So let's go back to the simple example that I started out with. So let's go to this 3-tier topology. I'm going to connect these dots. For each of these tiers, you will see on the right-hand side, the user can provide further requirements for the application. So there's already a name for the tier. There's a base image. This service has been modeled such that you can select a variety of base images. So you can select the base image that you want for this. Because this can run as a stateless, as a cluster, you can also provide the number of nodes in a cluster, min and max nodes, so on and so on. This is Tomcat. So for Tomcat, let's say you want to load up an application WAR file, then you can pick a repository, a storage repository. This can be S3, it can be an on-premise FTP or HTTP repository set by an admin, and you can point to your WAR file there as well. So you point to your WAR file, you point to your Tomcat properties. This is a simple Tomcat service that we ship. So the properties here are very simple. There's a Tomcat deployment context as well. But when you model your own services, you can parameterize them the way you like. So whatever options you want to provide as parameters to end users, app developers, as an example, they would be available here.
How does the Docker object work? So can I point to an image?
You can point to a Docker image, Docker Hub. Yep, okay. Absolutely. Yep.
Or if I have my own registry, is that a setting somewhere that I can input?
Yeah, so repositories can be all set up here from the repositories tab.
Okay.
Yep. So what's really important here is that this is the blueprint, but there are various hooks where the user can actually customize the workflow. So for every service, the user can add a pre-start, post-start, pre-stop, post-stop script. This could be, in the case of a VM-based topology, something that runs on the VM, or it could be an external initialization as well, where this basically is an external script not running on the VM. We basically launch a secure sandbox container, that's where this runs, and it could be an API call as well. So there are various methodologies by which you can customize this workflow. It can be done at the service level, but also at the node level. So any node initialization, node cleanup, node resume, these kind of activities can be basically plugged in, which is fairly common because every application is going to be custom. It's going to have its own configuration, its own installation, and this is where, if you want to customize anything, that's where you plug in those custom scripts. Often these tend to be existing scripts that developers have already created, and they're essentially just plugging them in here. For these scripts, what's important is you can pass in parameters. So you can model parameters here.
So does this integrate with a framework like Cloud Config, like CoreOS is using, for instance?
I'm not very familiar with that. I can find out.
Question. Back at the beginning, you were contrasting the various ways of deploying things and basically saying scripting is bad because we have to change it all the time.
Yep. Exactly. Great question. Some scripting is bad, some scripting is needed. The kind of scripting that you don't want to do as an application, application developer or owner, is the infrastructure scripting. But as an application owner, you still need application scripts. So what you're plugging in here is not a script specific to Amazon or OpenStack or VMware. What you're saying is that when my Tomcat service comes up and my package is pulled in, post-service start, something specific to my application has to be configured. That's the script I'm plugging in.
Okay,
Right?
Got it.
So those scripts can be created here, and you can create parameters that you can pass to the scripts. So let's say you need to provide a license key. License key could be a parameter. You could have a display name for it, a help text, and then you can have a type. There are several types that we support. Number, list. You can also call a web service to populate a list. Password with confirmation, so on and so on. And you can either provide default values for this that are locked down, or you can publish this as a choice to the end user, so on and so on. These can be passed to scripts as environment variables or also command line variables, and at deployment time, the user can plug in a value. These are user-generated parameters. We also provide a very comprehensive set of macros that are system-generated. So let's say this tier would need to know the IP address of the MySQL. Let's say the IP address on a cloud environment is generated on the fly using DHCP. The IP address here needs to be configured. For the IP address, there is a system-generated parameter, the name of the tier, _IP, _address, within percentage signs. So a lot of these system-generated parameters can help with automation in those scripts as well.
So all the system parameters are essentially any kind of field that you create or that you assign in any parts of these blueprints you can pass into.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So that's sort of some of the key elements. There's a lot more in the profile itself. I do encourage everybody to go to our documentation. It's available on the the old CliQr documentation website, but it's also available on Cisco CloudCenter documentation, which gets into a lot more details around these profiles itself. So I think I have 12 more minutes, so let me go through the rest of this here. This demo account has really simple applications. I'm going to pick one. This is very similar to the 3-tier application that I just showed you. It's called Roller Weblog. I see different people doing WordPress demos. Some people are doing Sugar CRM demos. SharePoint demos take forever. So let's go into Roller Weblog here. And I basically just clicked on the deploy button there. And here's the deployment UI. I'm logged in as the admin, so you'll see more options and more choices here. As an end user, the choices can be limited. Let me give this deployment a name. Deployment Cloud Tech Day. I can pick the app version. I can give it a description. And this is where the tag-based stuff comes in. I'm an admin, so I can see all the tags. But let me pick my demo tag here. And so right now, these cloud selections are empty. But picking up the demo tag auto-populated the cloud selections. So it picked a demo deployment environment. The way we have set up the demo deployment environment is actually, for demo purposes, it does allow you to go to different clouds. But if I pick a different tag, it might just limit you to one cloud. So I'll go with Amazon here. There are some advanced settings. You will see that there's an aging policy that's grayed out, 12 hours. That's something enforced by the admin. If you are running a demo workload, it's probably not a good idea to keep it running forever, or Amazon cost is going to go out of control. So this automatically enforces the 12-hour aging policy. So this workload will be shut down in 12 hours. And then down below, you will see Amazon-specific options. So you see the Amazon instance types. You see the actually details of the Amazon instance type, 1 CPU, 4 gigs of memory. It's kind of small. Our next version of the UI will actually show this really nicely in bold, clear text. There are advanced Amazon-specific options, on-demand instances versus spot instances, VPCs, availability zones, so forth and so on. So the user can make all these selections, or you could default them, or you could lock them down as well. In the 4.6 product that's coming at the end of September, there's a mode where the user doesn't even see the options. They just click deploy, a confirm page, boom, it goes.
So how do you see yourself differentiating between RightScale, VRA? I mean, where do you think you're leading those?
Well, I think going back to the same concept, in RightScale or VRA, you still need to work a lot on the cloud-specific scripting part. You still need to create an automation workflow. This is a blueprinting approach. So the blueprinting approach is fundamentally different. Particular to RightScale, I would say there are features in the product around multi-tenancy, around scalability, security, policies, governance that stand way beyond what they do. RightScale is also very much focused on SaaS. We are more so focused on on-site. VRA is an interesting beast. I think VMware's messaging at best has been very confusing.
What?
And focus has been clearly a lot on VMware environments. This cuts across. This cuts across. And this was a conversation that I had with Chuck Robbins as well. When they were acquiring CliQr, is that Cisco is completely not interested in locking in customers to Cisco. We will support Cisco and non-Cisco environments. And that was one of the reasons we thought this was a great place for us to be as well. So, that's the gist of it. You go down, you click on Summit, and let me do that. So let me pick some instance types here. And click on Summit. Basically, this will now go ahead and launch that 3-tier workload on the cloud that I had selected. So this is going to take this to Amazon and basically start spinning up the different tiers on Amazon and bringing up the application. Give it a few seconds here.
So do you have full support right now for Microsoft, Google, Amazon?
Full support for Azure Pack on-premise, Azure Public.
Okay.
Azure Pack is going to become Azure Stack, so we're working on that. OpenStack, various versions and distros, Mirantis, Red Hat, Metapod, HP Helion.
Okay.
We used to support HP's public cloud, that's gone. Several service provider clouds as well, for example, Dimension Data, Entity Communications. Public clouds are Amazon. Google was an investor in our company, so Google's one of the clouds that we have supported actually before they came out of stealth.
Okay.
Google and CliQr came out of stealth at the same time, Google Compute Engine.
Are there, better partners than other partners? Do you have, are you just as good integration-wise across that stack, or how does that?
I think we're just as good. I mean, some of the areas where we probably struggle with integration is where the cloud APIs are not that strong. Mm-hmm. Like when we worked with Google in the beginning, it took us 2 weeks to add Google support. The APIs were so clean and neat. There have been other cloud providers as well where it's taken over a month to add support for those clouds. But as the clouds are maturing, I think some of the APIs are also becoming easier and easier to consume. The rate of change of APIs is also stabilizing. I think we still see about an 18% change in APIs year over year. So 20% of our team is dedicated to maintaining those southbound integrations. The interface layer that we have, one of our visions is to actually not keep that closed. We want to open up the interface. So if you want to write your own integration with the southbound cloud, or say customize the OpenStack integration we have, you should be able to do that in the future. So actually that's the application that was just launched. And while I was talking, possibly you might have seen yellow flashing dots. That's when we were in the process of getting the VMs from the cloud provider. They have turned into green flashing dots because we should have the VM information now. So let's.
When you hit that provision button and set all the different parameters, can you do that through an API?
Everything is API driven.
API driven,
yeah, absolutely. And with that, when the ServiceNow scoped app calls CliQr, it's through our REST API.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Is there anything that I cannot do via API?
There are, well, so let me answer the questions. Everything can be done through an API. Not all the APIs might be exposed. And the ones that are not exposed.
The answer to that is no.
No, so the ones that are not exposed is mainly because the feature might be still under, advancement.
Okay.
So if the API is not the final API, we don't want to publish it yet.
Okay.
But I would say most of it is out there.
What integrations do you have with configuration management systems, Chef, Puppet, Ansible?
So in that topology builder, you can call out a Chef or Puppet. You can select a repository, and then from the repository point to a Chef.
What about just some of those enterprise products? So like Ansible Tower, for example, if I need to get a node in one of my blueprints added to Tower, can I do that natively, or do I need to build a script or something to do that?
You can do that. So the way you would do that is create a custom Ansible Tower service. That would be part of the left-hand side.
Yep.
And then you can add it to the models. It's just not out of box.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is probably going to take a few more seconds, maybe a few minutes even, to come up. What you will see here is, as this database is coming up, we are getting the information from the cloud provider. So you see the cloud name, the cloud account, more information on the node itself, the IP addresses as an example. And as we start orchestrating, you will also see the sequence of steps we are taking to bring up the application. So let me open these in new tabs. So I want to show, are we good on time?
About 5 minutes.
5 minutes. So I'll just leave it with two last things. And again, I'm happy to connect with everyone offline and get into more details. I think there's a lot here. So this is the environment the application that I just launched. It's in progress. It was sent to the demo environment. Let me just filter on other deployments of the same workload that I've launched in the past. So this is the same application. These are all the previous deployments. So let me bring up this one. It says Roller Azure 2. So it's the same version, same application. It was deployed on Azure US East. Was launched on July 25th. It's cost us about $583 so far. So you'll also see the cost of that deployment. And so this is that deployment on Azure. And you will also see all the orchestration steps we took for a particular tier. If there was an error message from your custom script, we would bubble up the error code, the error message. If there was an error message from the underlying cloud provider, say you ran out of quota, we would bubble up that error message as well. Users can also directly go into the VM for troubleshooting from here, SSH and VNC. And then once the workload comes up, I can actually access it here. So that's that simple blogging application running on Azure here. And the same model can actually be taken to any other cloud. So the one that I launched in the start of my demo was on Amazon. A really cool and fun feature that's related is benchmarking. I think the industry is not there yet, but we are headed in that direction. But because that model can go to multiple clouds, we can benchmark different clouds. Some providers like it, some don't. And you can select different instance types. You can set up your application with a test workload. And basically what we would do is go out, run the application empirically, measure the application performance and also the cost, and show you which cloud is better. The comparison could be private to public. You could plug in custom pricing for your private cloud. Could be public to public, or could be even a same public cloud, different configurations like instance types. So here's an interesting one. The same blogging application I ran on Google and Amazon. Google was standard instance types. Amazon was medium instance types. I don't really know how to compare them. There's no apples to apples comparison. I can pick up different instance types. This is cost. This is performance in terms of application performance, requests per second. What you will see is the red dot Google is slightly more expensive than Amazon. Amazon is about 26 cents, and this is, think about.
This is all street price, right? If I want to get like spot instance pricing.
This is street price. We don't have spot instances in the benchmarking, but we do support spot instances. So when you launch something, you can choose spot instances as well.
Will it tell me the cost at that point?
It will tell you the cost.
Okay,
it shows you the cost. Yep. And if you do have custom pricing, there's a place in the product where you can plug in your custom pricing as well.
Okay.
So then it will use the custom pricing.
All right, great.
And that's it. But even though the red dot is more expensive than the blue dot, the performance difference is tremendous. And so we show that as best price, best performance, or best trade-off price performance index as well. You could automate your application deployments on a policy that says always go to best price or best performance or best price performance. And I think that's probably where the future is headed towards.